women. This week, we speak to Bahia Jainuddin about caring for children afflicted with Down syndrome. Then we speak to Haja Halima Harron about the incredible story of her mother and the immense courage she displayed throughout her life. And lastly, we chat to Zahida Sunday about balancing professional ambition with personal passions.
Wel, jy weet, ek sê altyd, om kinders groot te maak, kom nie met 'n handboek nie. En ek kan my dan net indink, om 'n Down syndroom kind groot te maak, of kinders groot te maak, is seker nog 'n bietjie erger moeilik. Maar assalamu alaikum, hallo en hartlike welkom by Inspirational Woman. Ek is Abida Dixon Mohammed en my gas vandag is Bahia Jainuddin. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, Abida, how are you?
I'm very well, alhamdulillah. En ek kan sien u is ook maar sommer baie gesond en alles.
Alhamdulillah.
Maar ja, soos ek nou net genoem het, ons praat van Down syndroom kinders. En jy is dan 'n ouer wat dan nou natuurlik 'n Down syndroom kind het. Net so 'n kort inrigting gou vir ons kykers. Hoe was dit vir jou as 'n ouer om 'n Down syndroom kind groot te maak?
Wel, Abida, met my dink ek is bietjie verskillend as ander ouers sien goed, want ek het altyd myself gesê toe Shamise gebore is Down syndroom, ons het nie geweet voor dit sy was Down syndroom until die dag van haar geboorte. En ek het myself gesê ek wil nie hê Shamise moet opgroei met die idee van dat sy is special needs nie. Ek wil vir haar 'n lewe gee so normaal as wat ek kan. En dit is presies wat ons gedoen het. So Shamise se lewe was baie normaal opgegroei en sy was ook nie te sieklik geweest, soos baie het hartprobleme en daai, en Shamise het nie daai nie. En ek dank die man van Boel van daai, sy het wel asthmatic gehad, wat sy groei het, sy's gebore met 'n krop in die throat, which means, as die longetjies toe gaan of, dan kan sy nie asemhaal nie, en dan moet hulle obviously sny en daai, maar gelukkig met Allah se kudrat, dit is dinge wat Shamise alles overcome het en daai.
Maar dan as ouers julle se self, was daar al baie kere tye wat julle nou gedink het, okay, vandag het Allah besluit, dis jou laaste asempie wat jy gaan haal.
Ja, dit is eintlik die grootste ding, want ek dink baie wat 'n mens voel in jouself en is, gaan hulle alles vir hulle self kan doen. Gaan daar anders wees wat agter hulle sal kyk soos jy agter jou kind gekyk het. En dit is seker pad van my hoekom ek vir Shamise so groot maak is dat sy alles haarself moet kan doen. Because ek wil hê sy moet so independent as moontlik wees. So as ek my oop toemaak, moet Shamise alles vir haarself kan doen. Sy moet nie 'n las wees vir ander nie. Verstaan? En dit is dink ek die grootste ding wat baie challenges vir baie ouers is, because baie is nie regtig so bevoorreg so Shamise is wat sy kan alles doen nie. En daar's som ouers wat alles vir hulle kind weer moet doen. Verstaan? So dit is 'n bietjie ingewikkeld vir sekere ouers en daai, maar soos ek sê is die meerder probeer ek om vir Shamise te gee alles wat sy haarself kan doen, om nie 'n las te wees.
Nou, sy gou vir my, so mense is dalk miskien Down syndroom, maar sy verstaan alles wat 'n mens vir haar sê of vra en daai tipe van goeders.
Ja, sy verstaan alles, sy kan alles doen vir haarself. Ek bedoel, as sy kan al die vroumense dinge doen vir haarself ook. Dit was die eerste ding wat ek vir Shamise geleer het, en daai om haarself skoon te hou en alles te. En dit is iets wat ek moet sê wat Shamise baie prompt op is, maar weer eens dit kom op jou as 'n ouer. Hoe jy regtig daai kind train om dinge te kan doen. En daai, because baie van die ouers voel jammer vir hulle kinders, dan doen hulle alles vir hulle kinders. Maar ek myself sê ek gaan nie daai doen nie, want Shamise moet independence vind op haarself.
Wel, ek hoop u hoor en luister mooi na wat Bahia sê. So ek mag miskien nie daarvan kan praat nie, want ek het nie 'n Down syndroom kind nie, maar u wat wel daardeur gaan, as u dink miskien op hierdie tyd, u kan nie verder nie, luister na die boodskap wat sy gee, en ek is seker dalk kan ietsie daar uitkry, om natuurlik vir u kind te kan doen, wat u wil, of wat die kind vir homself kan doen. Bahia, hoe oud is Shamise nou?
Shamise is 19 jaar oud, sy word 30 November.
Wel, ek moet sê, vir so 'n mooi klimheid, nee, as sy regtig goed geleer. Maar jy is dan nou nie net besig met Shamise nie, maar jy het dan nou ook, kom ek sê, jy's dan amper soos 'n ma vir nog meer Down syndroom kinders. Vertel vir ons kykers.
Ja, die Shamiz Scott Foundation, dit het alles begin met Shamiz haarself, wat 'n droom gehad het vir haarself het. En ek as 'n moeder het maar net daai gepersuade vir haar. En daai so met dit het ek ook gesien daar's baie daar buite wat nie vir hulle self kan opstaan nie. Ouers wat nie die krag het meer om te kan vorentoe kom en daai nie. En dit is waar ek gesê het, ek het 'n announcement gedoen en gesê ons wil 'n fashion show doen. Want ek het gesien wat die fashion show aan Shamiz gedoen het. En ons het mense ingeroep en ek het mense van oral gekry, ek het mense van Paul, van Edgemead, van Bonteheuwel, van Heideveld oral basies gekry, Mitchells Plain en daai wat aan boord gekom het en gesê het hulle wil hulle kinderspad van dit maak. En met dit het ons gesien wat dit eintlik aan die kinders doen. Hoe baie die kinders hulle self-confidence uitgebring toe hulle daai ramp vat vir die eerste keer en daai. En daai het my laat besef is, weet jy, hoeveel anders is daar buite wat verlang om sekere dinge te doen, but because die ouers het nie daai krag om vorentoe te kom nie, of hulle weet nie hoe om vorentoe te kom nie. En dit is waar ons begin het met die Scott Foundation en daai.
En as ons nou praat van kinders, praat ons van meisies en seuns?
Ja, ons praat van die ouderdom van 16 af reg tot op 40 jaar oud. Want hoekom ek met daai ouderdom begin het was, as hulle klaar is met skool, hulle het regtig niks aan om te doen vir hulle lewe nie. So hulle sit net by die huis en daai. En dit is hoekom ons gesê het, ons vat hulle in, ons doen 'n bietjie training, so Shamiz se droom was om haar eie massage parlor te hê. En dit is wat ek gepersuade as 'n moeder, want vra ons regtig ons se kinders of hulle drome het as hulle special needs is. Ons wil self besluite vir hulle doen. Maar weet jy, hulle kan eintlik besluite vir hulle self doen. Ons moet hulle net bystaan. Maar is omdat ons as ouers nie daai doen en met jou kind sit en hoor, het hulle ook drome nie, hulle ook dinge om te doen wat wil hulle doen in die wêreld, want hulle is ook mense soos ons. Ons kyk te veel aan hulle special needs en ons vergiet van hulle humanity needs.
Hulle vergeet, kom ek sê ons as ouers, vergeet eintlik wat die kind kan doen, as wat ons besluit en dan net dink wat die kind nie kan doen. En dit is eintlik dan waar ons die kinders ook dan agterhou en so aan. Maar nou, jy praat dan nou van kinders en hy tipe van goeders, maar om dan nou met die kinders te werk en jy praat dan nou ook nou van rams en al die kompetisie stories, dan moet jy mos nou ook seker gaan van plek tot plek.
Ja, Shamiz was in India geweest. Ek en Shamiz was in Gambia, waar sy Miss International gekroon is, MWI International, the first ever pageant in the world. So sy is die inaugural van die pageant. En dan was ons nou 2 maande terug geweest in Johannesburg, waar hulle 'n fashion show gaan doen het. En ek sê vir jou, dit was die highlights geweest, want dit is die eerste keer wat meester van hulle nog nooit getravel het nie, nog nooit in 'n bus even geweest het om so ver te gaan nie. Nog minder so 'n lang distance te doen. So almal van hulle was daar en ewen julle president Najmaladi was daar ook gewees. So sy kan ook vir julle sê die experience was gedoen gewees. Dit was phenomenal. Maar om die experience wat die kinders self gehad het. Hulle gaan soos in Parel, ons doen verskillende eat and treats. Oral wat ons kan inkom om die kinders daai exposure te gee. Dit is wat ons doen om vir hulle daar uit te bring, om daai awareness uit te bring daar buite.
Nou as julle dan so uitgaan, doen julle dit as fundraising of is dit nou net so vir free?
Ons doen dit as fundraising, want kyk, ons is in need van baie dinge. Soos jy weet, enige organisasie benodig iets. En dit is basies wat ons is, because ons benodig ons transport ook. Dit is baie belangrik vir ons, want waar ewe ons moet gaan, dit is altyd ons grootste challenge, is transport. Ek moet hier, daar, hier. En op die einde van die dag kos dit so baie van ons, en baie van die kinders kom van underprivileged areas en daai. So dit is 'n challenge vir ons. So basies, ek sê altyd my kinders kom nie met 'n price tag nie. So ek vra jou nie 'n prys nie, al wat ek sê is donasie. So waar ewe ons gaan, ons doen donation boxes en daai en ons sê vir die mense wat ewe julle kan doen. Want vir my is dit, hulle kom regtig nie met 'n price tag nie.
Definitief nie. Nou by jou met hoeveel kinders werk jy altesaam?
Begin met 2, ons is amper op 36. En ons is maar net 'n jaar oud. Ek sê vir jou, Abida, is eintlik hartseer dat ek vir sekere mense moet sê, ons kan nie meer vat nie. Because ek werk uit my garage, ek weet nie of jy daarvan weet nie. So ek doen training uit die garage uit met hulle en daai. En die garage begin nou klein raak, so premises is ook aan die pipelines en daai. So ja, wat ek basies met hulle doen, wat ek ook gesien het, die lack van ons kinders is hulle sosiale lewe. Baie van hulle weet nie wat dit is om uit te wees nie. Baie van hulle word ge-isolate en daai. En dit is hoekom ek gesê het, ons is 'n organisasie met 'n different twist. Because dit gaan oor die kinders self. Verstaan, ons is maar die backers, ons is maar die downfall at the back, maar het gaan eintlik oor hulle. Wat hulle wil achieve in hulle lewe en hoe ver hulle dinge kan doen. As mense net vir hulle opportunities gee om te kan hulle bewys wat hulle regtig waar kan doen.
En hoe is die ouers se betrokkenheid saam met jou as jy nou al hierdie goeders met die kinders doen?
Die ouers, ek dink raak nowadays meer excited as die kinders. Because is ook vir hulle 'n platform, is dinge wat hulle ook nog nooit gedoen het nie, because hulle sit met die kinders in die huis. Hulle kry nie kans om uit te gaan nie, hulle kry nie kans om 'n sosiale lewe vir hulle self te hê nie. Nou wat ons doen is, as ons get-togethers het en ons gaan na plekke, ek vat altyd die ouers saam. En hulle is op hulle kant, die kinders is op hulle kant. Want ek sê, as jy nie jou kind gaan vertrou met my nie, sal jy nooit jou kind kan vertrou met iemand nie. So, gee vir hulle oor aan my, dan sal julle sien die production wat uit hulle uitkom. En dit is presies wat gebeur. En dit gee ook die ouers die kans om die break te kry. En dit is wat presies nou gebeur met ouers en met kinders.
Okay.
Ja.
Maar nou baie, om dan nou met enige kind te werk, weet jy mos nou, natuurlik mos nou, dit is baie werk, maar om dan nou met Down syndroom kinders te werk, en soos hy vroeër genoem het, almal is nie op dieselfde vlak nie. So vir jou as vrou, en dan ook ouers wat miskien nie dieselfde leiding en goeders kan doen nie, hoe hanteer jy, kom ek sê 36 kinders geleidelik?
Om vir jou te sê, Sabira, dit waarlik kom niet van Allah Almighty af, regtig waar, ek werk van my hart af. Because vir my is ek het nie 'n professional training in dit nie, niks nie. Die dag toe dit na ons toe kom, toe sê ek is die tool. Allah gebruik vir my as hy tool. En believe you me, elke kind wat ek aanraak, het ek 'n spesiale gevoel mee, het ek 'n sekere way van werk. En dit is presies waar dit oor gaan. As jy iets van jou hart doen, as jy passion het, dan daai is wat uitbring. Jy kan die beste van beste en daai kan uitbring. En dit is wie ek is. Soos die ouers vir my sê is, sit jy 'n spel op ons se kind. Want as ons se kinders hier inkom, wil hulle nie huis toe gaan nie. Dit is die probleem wat ek eintlik het. Van hulle het al oorgeslaap ewen by my. Net van hulle wil by my wees. En dit is basies, ek het ook assistants van die organisasie se committee volunteers wat soms help en daai en handby gee, but mostly is when they see me, they want to embrace me and I embrace them back.
Wel, ek moet vir jy sê, 'n mens kan hoor die passie in hierdie vrou is se stem en wanneer sy praat. Maar vroeër het ons so 'n bietjie gesels en sy het gesê haar grootste benodig natuurlik is vir vervoer, transport. So ek persoonlik vra as u vir hulle kan help met vervoer vir 36, kom ek maak 'n getal van 40 kinders altesaam om vir hulle te kan ry waar hulle moet wees. Asseblief Kanala, dan is ek seker hulle sal dit baie waardeer. Bahia Jainuddin, ek sê vir baie shukran. Dit was wonderlik om met u te gesels en mag Allah vir u net vat van sterkte tot sterkte. Ja, wel so sê my gas natuurlik Bahia Jainuddin van myself Abida Dixon Mohammed. Totsiens. Wassalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace, blessings and mercy of Almighty Allah be with you and your family wherever you are. Welcome to another episode of Inspirational Woman. My name is Najwa Muhammad Ladi. And our viewers might remember, not too long ago, we featured the daughters of the late Abdullah Haroon on the show. And today we'll be chatting to one of his daughters once again, and that's the baby daughter, Sister Fatima Harun Masood, but she's going to tell us the story of her mother, the late Haja Halima Harun. Assalamu alaikum, Fatima.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you, my sister?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. With all praise and thanks to the Almighty Allah, I feel blessed, and with Allah's mercy, I feel encouraged.
Alhamdulillah. Sister Fatima, about 4 weeks ago, we were also here, about 5 weeks ago. And when we were here, your beautiful mother was still alive.
Indeed.
And today, almost a month?
Yes, tomorrow it will be a month
of her passing.
Of course.
So shukran so much once again for allowing us into your space. We know it's not easy, but we're in the same house and we can feel there's a gentle, soft energy here, mashallah. So we wish the family all of the best, inshallah, and grant your mom and your dad the highest place in Jannah, inshallah. Fatima, you're the baby daughter of two incredible parents, mashallah. Today it's about your late mother. If you can start by telling our viewers, what's her lineage? Where did she come from? How many kids? If you can start with that, inshallah.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. This incredible journey of my beloved mother is a journey to share with so many of our women. My mother was truly an amazing woman who had great inspiration. And I'm now 56 years old, and I have been with my mother since the day I was born. And I have had the privilege to witness her death. So for me, as a daughter, I feel enormously blessed and encouraged that I had the opportunity to spend my lifetime with my mum. My mum hails from Claremont, Draper Street. It was known during that time, Dronkstraatjie. Yeah, that was the name that was given. It was just the Al Jamia Masjid was separated between Dronkstraatjie and Stegman Road, where Al Jamia Masjid still is today. So the railway line separated my granny's home, where my mum was raised and grew up, and between Stegman Road and Dronkstraatjie or Draper Street. And she hails from a family of 5 brothers, and they are 2 sisters. And my mum's mother, my grandmother, was a baker. She was an amazing woman. Her name was Ruqayya, but she was fondly known as Oh Mummy.
Oh, Mummy.
Oh Mummy.
So that is your grandma?
My grandmother, my mother's name, yes. Yeah. She was very good at baking, and I remember my granny was very strict and a stern woman. And my mother was then the eldest daughter in the family. And of course, my mother then married my father, and they moved to Jefferson Road in Claremont, where they lived. And then during the Group Eres Act, my parents were forcibly removed. And at that time, my father had a big house built in Repulse Road in Crawford, nearby where we live today. And because my father was an imam, he was a consultant with Roundtree's, the chocolate company. He was always an avid sports fan of rugby and cricket. And he believed in non-racial sport. So he had this house built in Repulse Road, opposite City and Suburban City Park.
Correct. Yes.
And he always said he'll have this huge balcony so that the family and the friends can come watch a rugby match or a cricket match. But then, of course, they did not live long in this new house, just going on to about 5 years, when my father was arrested in May of 1969. And then my mum was always at home, and she was an extremely good artist in dressmaking. And she used to sew for the people in the other suburbs, like, if I can use terminology, then the European people or the fairer complexion. She used to sew this beautiful garments and exclusive garments, and she used to make beautiful wedding gowns and ballroom gowns, and she was just gifted. Truly, she had an amazing gift. And then, of course, during my father's arrest, and of course when he was imam, she worked in the house, so she was earning she was independent. So, and weekends, I remember my cousins used to come and visit us to help cook and help clean the house, while my mother, whom they fondly called her Titi, as the eldest sister in the family, would make them a garment. So when each of them would go home on a Sunday evening, they would all go home with a new dress. So she was very thrifty and witty and clever in making a garment quickly.
Smart lady.
And very smart, yes.
Very smart lady.
And I remember I was 5 years old, going on to 6 years old of my father's arrest of 1969. My mother, of course, found herself alone. And I remember that day when my father was arrested, the day of the Maulud and Nabi celebration. I looked up at her, bewildered, and I remember her touching my shoulders, but making me feel like everything will be okay. And that feeling of contentment and concern and her role as a parent changed for me. Because from the day of my father's arrest, she became my mother and my father. So having lost my father along the way, from the day we left our home, I've never saw him, only until the day he was buried, the morning when we had to greet him. And soon after his death, it was known to us as a family that he never made a will. And then the government, the party government at that time, informed my mother that she was the unlawful wife, and we, the 3 children, Shamla, Muhammad and I, were the illegitimate children. So then shortly after his death, our father's death, my mother found her alone, no support from the broader community, of course support from close family, friends and family and friends, but somehow everybody became distant. They were afraid, they were fearful that if they should come to our home, they'll be arrested. And I remember at that time in our life, we then were scattered. My sister was already in London in 1968 because my father was a great advocate in women, had to learn to gain knowledge. So, and she wanted to study radiography, and she went to London. My brother was 13 years old. My mother had to move into her mother's home, whom my granny already shared with her elder son and daughter-in-law, as well as all the children that was in the home.
So, Ma Fatima, after the demise of your dad, your mother lost the house.
My mother lost the house. My father's family, my father's family of the first wife. My grandfather married
Had
2 wives.
Yeah.
In fact, he had 3 wives, but he had children of the 2 wives. But the family of the first wife, they took the cognizance that the house should be sold and the money should be divided amongst them as siblings. Right. And then my mother found her alone, lost, and no support. She then had to move into a 1-bedroom room at her mother's home with, I remember very clearly, it was our bed and it was her tool that made her survive, and that was her sewing machine. Yes. And my brother had to go and live with his with family friends, and then life went on.
So the family the kids were actually split as well.
We were scattered, yes, we were scattered. Yeah. So all this trauma, psychologically, each one had to endure over the years. Other than her as the wife, a mother, and a breadwinner, she had to support herself, because she realized then that she will have no support from the community.
She was alone.
She was a very independent, brave woman. Yeah. She had the courage to motivate herself and to make sure that she will make ends meet, and she will make sure that she won't have to beg anybody for a slice of bread.
Right. To support her family.
To support her family. Right. And of course, when she learned that she was we were the illegitimate children, she was the unlawful wife. Any woman that has an iota of having to understand that you are married lawfully under Islamic law, these are your children, that was your husband, and you were his lawful wife. You know, must have dampened the spirits so much. I would not have understood.
But saying all of that, Fatima, your mom persevered until the last, really. So inshallah, we need to go for a short ad break to our viewers. But when we do return, we will continue with the life and legacy of this brave, wonderful mother of Fatima and Shamila and your brother, inshallah, to tell her story. We'll be back shortly, inshallah. Welcome back to Inspirational Women. I'm chatting to the baby daughter of Haja Halima Haroon, who has passed on about 30 days ago, and she's telling her mother's story to the world, inshallah. Fatima, all over to you again. Your mom had to endure so many things, but as before our break we mentioned, she never stopped. You know, she persevered, and then it was all about survival. How did your mom manage that pain that she had to go through without affecting her kids?
I remember my mother wrote a letter to my sister when she was in England. My sister, we had the privilege of reading the letter, and in the letter my mother wrote to my sister, "Dear Shamila, one of the many things that I want to tell you, you can't come back to South Africa because they might arrest you. There's great concern. For me is, don't worry about Mummy and Fati and Muhammad. We will be okay. We will survive. But you must remember, Shamila, that I have no real support here, but I will make sure that we survive. One of the fundamental things that I'm going to make sure is that I will make sure that you have, that all my children will have a roof over your heads." And I remember that letter was very moving because her pain was deep. My mother never shared her pain. She wasn't crying all the time, but I know there was that bitter memories, and that was the heartache, and there was the sadness that came pouring out of her eyes. And she always used to say to me, she doesn't want to bother anybody. She doesn't want to go with a begging bowl to anybody. She will survive. And through the qadr of Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, and through all the good work that my father has done, she believes firmly that she will survive. So my mother was very good at managing finances. So she, in her life, her married life with my father, she was the woman that managed the finances. She wasn't a spendthrift woman. She looked after every penny that she earned. And I remember growing up, she wouldn't unnecessarily spoil us. She will always say, keep for the rainy day. She always made sure that we are not wasteful. She always reminded us to be wasteful is not going to be in your favor as you grow older. And I can bear testimony to that. So what my mother did, through all her heartache and her pain, she went to learn to drive.
Wow.
And in her, can you imagine,
at that age,
in the late 60s or early 70s,
yes,
it was very rare for women,
women
to go and drive. So at the age of 43, she encouraged herself to go and learn to drive. And I remember my older cousin saying how they used to laugh at Titi getting into the front of a car and wanting to drive.
Yes.
And how brothers used to mock her
Yes.
and make fun of
Yes,
her.
yes.
But I mean, in a good way.
Good way.
And there she drove. She bought a brand new Mini. I remember it was a little white Morris Mini. And she drove. And then, because she was a very good dressmaker or seamstress, she found herself a job in Vineyard Road in Claremont. And at a personal dry cleaners, it was then called personal dry cleaners, and she went to work. But she went to work from Mondays to Fridays. But at the same token, my mother said to me that she's going to buy a piece of land, and this is the house that she's going to build in Nico Avenue.
This is the house where we're actually having the interview.
Yes. And I remember as a child growing up, you know, I was in primary school when we were still living with my granny, and I remember going to high school, just leaving primary school, going to high school, she started to build the house. And every day, clockwork, during her lunchtime or during her tea break, she would come to this barren piece of land in this quiet road, and she will make sure that the bases are done. So they would, the architect would be there, you know, the trenches would be dug, the cement, the bonding, she would go and buy the bricks herself, the cement herself. Those are the things she would do. And she was very good at keeping a record, a financial record of everything. And I still have the book because the cement was then R1 a bag.
Oh my word,
Yeah.
Fatima.
The bricks was something like 10 cents.
Yes.
You know, so she calculated her money wisely. And this is how I saw the house being built through her legacy and through her lifetime, until the roof was on top. And then what she did was, already after my father's death, she took on boarders. But she said the reason why she take on students, to pay tribute to the family that has taken good care of my sister in London. And she felt she could reciprocate by taking care of other people's children while they came to study in Cape Town. And this is what she did for a very long time. Working in the house as a mother, cooking, cleaning, washing, ironing, and looking after 5 boarders. At the time, we had many students traveling through this front door. And when they left this house, they then were qualified either dentists or lawyers. Most of them were teachers or doctors.
So she also kept the legacy really of her husband alive, because your dad was very inspiring when it comes to education.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
because
she
there's still
made sure.
there's still a bursary fund as well.
Imam Harun Education Bursary Education Trust. So through my father's legacy and memory, you know, having had the students in the home and they qualified, some of 1 or 2 of them married out of our home, and you know, but amazingly so, up till just before she died, many of her students always visited her religiously, you know, all the time, to give thanks and praise her for what she has done for them. But in the time of growing up, her being busy in the house, me being a student at high school, I remember my mom being a very strict woman, very firm-handed in everything she did. And I remembered we never had many family or friends visiting, because she was very busy trying to make ends meet. And she said, I'm building this house so that we can have no bond free.
So it was bond free.
Bond free. So she was inspired by my father's legacy. She wasn't a person for the media or to be interviewed, but I remembered the late Eulalie Stott belonged to the Black Sash movement. It was an organization that worked in favor of non-racial and also for empowering women in other societies across religious and color barriers. So Mrs. Eulalie Stott used to visit my mom quite frequently. And I remember one day she came to our home and she said, you know, Fatima, I must tell you, we have tried our very best for your mom to belong to the Black Sash movement. We've had many times we invited to our organizations, meetings, but she somehow kept herself in the background.
Right.
But she's a very strong, empowered woman, because she never asked us for a penny to support her and you as the children. But my mom had this way of drawing the people whom she looked after towards her. And as years gone by, I remember as a child, always in front of the sewing machine, always getting in the car going to work, and always coming home and cleaning, and that was her life. But what she also did in the same breath was, my sister was at that time in London, never came back, but then of course afterwards she came back for holidays. But in the time, my mom went to visit her religiously every year. So every year my mother would get on the plane and she would go to London to visit my sister. So this was one way of keeping in touch with my sister, to be in contact with the family and families that looked after her. So my mother then also had a travel bug, because during the time, her lifetime was being married to my father, she traveled with him to Egypt, to the Middle East, to London. They traveled quite often. But in the last years of her life, Najma, I saw my mother's aging process. And to me, I believe there's no book for old age. But I am thankful and I'm grateful for Allah's mercy to have honored me to be her daughter and to have taken good care of her and looked after her until the very day and morning she took her last breath. I saw the aging process from her walking forward, from walking with a walker, from walking with a walking stick, with a walker, and then into a wheelchair until she could not walk anymore. The little things we had to do for her was wash her and feed her, and one of the last things that to me was very moving is when she lost her speech. But she was determined. She still had a taste bud.
Yes.
But the sad thing for me is there's certain things of food she could not eat any longer because she couldn't swallow and she could not chew anymore. But Allah has given her impeccable hearing. Impeccable. So even in the last years of her life, she heard very well and she remembered. She had a very good memory.
as well.
Alhamdulillah.
Sister Fatima, with the last month really, before Mommy passed away, fortunately all 3 siblings were here, so they spent really quality time with your mother. Talk to us just briefly, because we've only got a minute before we need to wrap up, inshallah. What inspirational message would you like to give to the world regarding your mother, this impeccable lady?
To the women, generally, young and old, the lesson and the legacy that you need to learn, or I still have to take lessons from my mom's life, is to never give up hope, to persevere, and to make sure that Allah will be your qadr. Allah will make things easy for you. And to learn from her life's legacy is to be determined to make sure that you take care of yourself and your family and don't give up hope. So from myself, my mother will always inspire me. Allah has graced us for all the 3 children to be together in the last few hours of her death, that we witnessed it.
Yes.
And she took her last breath at 11 minutes past 5, the very morning of the 29th of September, when my father was laid to rest 50 years ago. She took her last breath when the Mu'adhin said, Allahu Akbar.
MashaAllah, Alhamdulillah. Haji Fatima, Jazakallah so much for this incredible story. And the ITV team can only make dua for you and your mom and for your entire family, that Allah grant your parents Jannatul Firdaus, inshallah. And one day, inshallah, you all must be resurrected together to enjoy the family bonds again, which you were denied of, you know. So yes, shukran so much. Very inspiring. May Almighty Allah bless all of you. And may it make easy, you know, may the pain subside for this incredible woman. So yes, indeed an incredible story, mashallah. So from myself, Najwa Muhammad Ladi, and the beautiful Sister Fatima, fi amanillah, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Daar word altyd gesê dat vroue kan beter multitask as mans. En ek dink nogal hulle is eintlik reg. Want baie keer dan kan ons dit beter doen as mans. Assalamu alaikum, hallo en hartlike welkom by Inspirational Woman. Ek is Abida Dixon Mohammed en my gas vandag is Zaida Sunday, want sy is 'n prokureur en natuurlik ook 'n huiskok. Assalamu alaikum Zaida.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi.
Was ek nou reg om te sê dat ons kan multitask?
We can multitask. Sorry, maar ek talk English.
Moenie worry nie, julle weet ons doen dit Engels en Afrikaans. So laat sy maar gaan met na Engels en ek hou by my Afrikaans want sy verstaan Afrikaans, moenie worry nie. Nou as ons nou kan praat nou met jou in verband met, jy is 'n prokureur, maar jy's nie net 'n prokureur, jy is dan ook 'n vrou, en dan boonop is jy 'n moslimvrou. Is dit nie 'n probleem vir jou, of kom ek sê vir ander, in hierdie regspan en so aan nie?
Yes, you're right. In the legal profession, it's a very male-dominated industry, and they don't actually take women seriously. So when I started out in the legal profession, it was very difficult for people to take you serious. But as time is going by, women are becoming very empowered, and especially in the legal industry, we have very good lawyers as women and top judges that are women. So I think the mindset is changing. It is still a very male-dominated industry. That's how I feel about it. Because just remembering one incident, we were busy with a settlement, and my client, the opposition party, he had a male lawyer. And the lawyer came in and he saw me now, and he asked me, "So how many years of experience do you have?" And I just looked at this man and I thought, he was older than me, and I just said, you know what, my experience, your experience has nothing to do with the matter on hand. So let's just sort this matter out. Yes. So I feel that it is a very male-dominated industry, but we thrive. Yes. We put our minds to it. We get solutions for our clients, and I think you shouldn't be bothered, about anything else.
Dink jy dan ook wanneer dit 'n man lawyer is, soos daai byvoorbeeld, hy kyk jou aan soos jy het nou net genoem het, dan sê hy ook vir syself, I've got this in the bag, want hy's 'n vrou.
Yes, because men have this, not all men. My husband is very supportive in my career, in my goals, in my dreams. So I can't generalize and say all men. But I think some men think that women need to stay at home. They need to look after the kids. And they shouldn't have a career. And I do think that some male attorneys think women are not so good as them, but I think we're equal, we good. Because I think if you work on your matter, you find your solution, and that's it.
Weet jy, die lewe gaan vandag so gou en so vinnig, dat evens as ons babatjies kry, jy kry die babatjie vandag, môre is die kind alweer 1 jaar oud. You know what I'm saying? So die tyd gaan so vinnig, dat daar nie meer tyd is vir ons, om kaalvoet in die kombuis, agter die potte en pregnant te wees nie.
It makes me think back in 2012, where I resigned from my corporate job, and I decided to start my own legal practice. And in that year, I wanted my business, and I had all these ideas, and I'm going to make it out there. And then I fell pregnant with my daughter, which was not part of my plan, but it was Allah's plan.
Of course.
But then I had clients in November, December, and I gave birth in January the next year. And I just gave birth, and 2 days after that, 2 clients called me. And I just spoke on my phone like normal. They didn't even know I had a baby. 2 weeks after that, I told my husband, you need to drive me to Somerset West. I need to go meet my client. I had a baby and all. It didn't stop me from doing my job.
En hoe oud is hy baby vandag?
6 years old.
Nou sien jy.
So nothing can stop you, and life goes on. You need to just take what's in front of you and go with it. You can't feel sorry for yourself. Oh, I can't do it. I can't do it. You can do it. Just put your mind to it.
As ek nou gou vir jou 'n vraag moet vra. Jy's nou 'n lawyer, maar nou kry jy nou 'n client. So jy moet nou outomaties jy nou die waarheid uit daai client kry. Maar nou baie van die client is jy altyd so eerlik hè. As jy nou allerlei vragies vra vir daai persoon nou, en dan kom jy miskien nou agter, okay, 1 en 2 maak jy eintlik hier nou regtig 3 of 4 hè. Hoe hanteer jy dalk miskien nou daai saak om dit miskien nou te kry soos jy nou dink jy moet dit kry, want jy kry nie regtig uit hierdie persoon uit nie.
That actually defines me as a legal practitioner in my company, where I'm very direct. I come to the point straight. It's not about the money that I'm going to make. If you come to me with your scenario and it doesn't add up, I tell you straight, I can't help you. Because I'm somebody that lives by the truth, and I have a conscience at the end of the day. I can't help somebody that's going to lie to me in the beginning. So if a story doesn't make sense, actually you're not losing anything at the end of the day. Because they're not paying your deposit, they're not paying your fees, you're just saying, I can't do this.
Nee, weet jy, hoekom jy eintlik vra, want iemand het eendag 'n statement gemaak om te sê, ja, dis geraam om 'n prokureur te wees. So I was thinking, what does this person mean? En toe sê die persoon, ja, want die lawyer moet lieg. You know what I'm saying? So I was like,
You know what? Our legal system is a good system. There's just a whole lot of corruption in the whole system. If we look at our acts and we look at everything, it's a good system. It's just being corrupted by the system and by people that now want to do backdoor things. You're not, if somebody is a murderer, they're going to admit to you and say, listen, I murdered somebody. You use the law and you say, okay, plead guilty, we'll get you a lesser sentence. Or we're going to make the file disappear, and that's what happens. So it depends on the lawyer, on the individual, if he has a conscience, if he has, you know, if he wants to help that person, or is he out to do the money. So I think that's what happens, man. It's not haram. I don't think it's haram because you're helping somebody.
ja, maar in 'n manier het ek eintlik verstaan wat die persoon sê. Die way die persoon het gesê het mag miskien verkeerd is. You know what I'm saying. Maar hoe lank vat jy dalk miskien om voor te berei as jy nou weet jy moet voorberei vir 'n saak?
It takes long. I mean, if for instance, a civil matter, there's a whole procedure. It starts from a letter of demand, goes to a summons. It's not an overnight solution. Law, people think going to court it's an overnight solution. It's not. It's time. It's going to court. It's waiting your turn. It's like a chop shop at court. And especially if you're doing criminal matters, I stay away from that. I prefer corporate law. I think it's better for a female. So you're not amongst all those different types of people. You don't have to consult with him. So it's time, it's preparation, and I think that's where the fees come in, because you sit late at night drafting papers, working out solutions and things like that. It's not an easy job.
Ek kan my net imagine dat dit is 'n easy job nie. Maar Zaida, jy doen nou ook dan kookklasse en goeters aan die sykant, behalwe nou 'n prokureur en al daai tipe van goeters speel. Vertel ons kykers van dit.
I started a food company many years ago when I was working in corporate. I always had a passion for food. I started to cook at a very young age, and I loved food. I started my corporate company, I think in 2010, but it was Aida's corporate catering, where I just catered for our halal people at the company.
Nice.
And then in 2016, I felt like I needed something else, man. Law is okay, I'm happy, I'm content. Just something burning inside of me that really wanted to do something else. In 2017, I started a Instagram page and a Facebook page. I thought, okay, let's do daily meals. And the rest is history.
En soos hulle sê, vandag is alles net so vinnig.
It is, everything's fast. It's fast-paced out there. So I started that, and then last year there was a demand for cooking classes for adults. So my cooking class is very social, interactive. People like to talk, they like to laugh. They find it very inspirational where I'm a lawyer and I'm teaching food. And I feel that we're here to empower each other. We're here to uplift each other. And we're here to grow our dreams. Because at the end of the day, you can't live a life and not, do weird things. I think it's very weird where people just don't want to do what they're talented,
Okay. Nou kan jy sien, wie het gesê dat jy moet net stiek met een job? As jy mos nou natuurlik fris en gesond is soos sy, en dan nou ook so lekker skinny is om vinnig te kan beweeg, dan kan jy seker meer as een job doen. Nou Zaida, jou cooking classes, hoeveel vroue het jy dan wat vir jou saam met jou hierdie cooking klasse doen?
So we have 5 to 8 people that attend the classes. They want to learn how to cook different cuisines. My classes are very different. So we have a theme, like we'll have a Mexican class, so we'll do all Mexican food. I find that people love the atmosphere. It's very social. We laugh a lot. I think people come and de-stress from the whole week. And they find it easy to talk about, and they always say, I wish I could do something with my life. Sometimes it's just normal people that are at home looking after the kids. And then I always say, you can be whatever you want to be. have the faith, have the right intention, and just work hard. Work doesn't kill anybody.
Dit laat my nou dink aan nou die ander dag wat ek ietsie gekyk het en toe vra die vrou nou toe vir die dokter in verband iets met die stres. En toe kyk die dokter aan en die dokter sê, "Wa, gooi net jou man weg." Maar dit was nou net op 'n ligte noot en nou dink ek nou net daaraan wat ons nou praat van stres en so aan. Maar ek kan dan net imagine dat julle verskriklik lekker fun dan ook het in hierdie klasse.
It's I think people forget the problems, they forget that stress is them. I find that a lot of people are very unhappy today. I think we all have challenges in our life and some of them come out just to have fun.
En dit so klein bietjie vergeet van die van die
problems,
huise goed
yes.
is daar so natuurlik
And I
ja.
think at a class like that, the nature of the class, you just let go. You just be yourself. It's not uptight. It's very social. You can just be yourself.
Vir 'n prokureur en natuurlike huiskok moet ek kan vir jou sê, sy is am op en wakker, né? Wel, dit is natuurlik my gas Zaida Sunday. Tot volgende keer. Mooi bly. Ek is Abida Dixon Mohammed. Totsiens. Wassalamu alaikum.